Hey guys, it's Big Dog EDM 2018 coming back at you for another video of my predictions for the NFL playoff rounds. This time is for the divisional round. Before I get to the predictions and this week's matchups, I just want to review last week's matchups that I predicted. I started off with Indy and Houston. I predicted the Texans would beat the Colts at home, especially having a young quarterback like Deshaun Watson, and having a great receiver in Hopkins. However, my predictions fell short, and the Colts ended up defeating them by 2 touchdowns. So, experience clearly a factor into this matchup with Andrew Luck. So the Colts ended up defeating the Houston Texans. That was my first prediction, so I was 0 for 1 there. And when it came to the Cowboys and Seahawks, I predicted that the Seahawks, especially having a pretty good defense and having experienced quarterbacks such as Russell Wilson and having an elite receiver in Baldwin, I thought that they would get over the hump and move on. However, the Cowboys had different plans and they beat the Seahawks. So I was 0 for 2 at that point, and at that point I was thinking, well, if I go 0 for 4, I'll look pretty foolish on these prediction videos. However, Sunday was a change of fortune, and I actually broke even as I predicted that the Chargers would defeat the Ravens, and they did. And I also picked the Philadelphia Eagles to upset the Bears. Now, granted, it was on the last-second field goal per se, and obviously, if the field goal had gone through the uprights, I would have been 1 for 3, and the Bears would be moving on, and then Parkley wouldn't be a sob story, I guess, at this point. So, went 2 for 2 last week. Let's see how I do for this week. The first matchup has the Colts going into Kansas City, and in the previous meetings with these teams in the postseason, the Colts have actually had the edge, going 4-0 against the Chiefs, and they actually won 2 games in Arrowhead, which is kind of a shocker because you would think that home field would play a factor, especially with that stadium and the fans and the decibel level there. But unfortunately, it hasn't worked out in their favor against the Colts. So this is the 5th meeting now between these two teams. Will the Chiefs finally get over that hump? Can Patrick Mahomes move this team on to a championship game? Only one way to find out, and stay tuned and see what happens. I will make my predictions for all the games after. I just want to go through all the matchups first. So the second game has the Cowboys heading into LA to take on the Rams. This will be the 9th meeting between these two teams in the postseason, and they've actually broke even. Each team has come out with 4 wins apiece, so this will be the 9th time that these two teams have played. Who's going to get that 5th win? Who's going to have that over the other team? We'll have to wait and find out, I guess. And the other matchup that really intrigues me about this thing is the 2 running backs. When you have Elliott on the Cowboys side and you have Gurley on the Rams side, I honestly believe whoever has a better rushing game can and will propel their team onto a win and move on to the championship game. The third matchup should be very, very interesting, as you have the LA Chargers heading into Foxborough to take on the New England Patriots. Now, this is the 8th time that Rivers and Brady have met, and Brady has absolutely owned Rivers. Not saying that they've been blowout wins, because by all means they've been very close, but Rivers is 0 for 7 versus Brady. So can Rivers pull off an upset in New England and get over that hump and finally move on to a championship game again? Only one way to find out and see. It's not going to be easy going into New England, especially in the wintertime. So only one way to find out. We'll see what happens. And then the final matchup should be very interesting, as you have the Eagles, who just came off that huge victory over the Bears, heading into the Big Easy to take on the New Orleans Saints. The Saints in their stadium have yet to lose a home playoff game, so this should be very interesting. So can the Eagles go into New Orleans and get another upset? Only one way to find out. I find with a closed stadium, and when you have a crowd that is yelling and screaming and they're trying to throw you off, I find that could really be a disadvantage for the visiting team. So can the Eagles get over that hump? Can Nick Foles pull off another miracle and keep their season alive? Only one way to find out, I guess. Now for my predictions. When it comes to the Colts and Chiefs, I think that the Chiefs will get the better of the Colts. I always say that the experience plays a major factor when it comes to the playoffs, but I just think Mahomes is just unbelievable. I'm not taking anything away from Andrew Luck because he is a good quarterback, and I don't really want to get burned by picking against him again. But I just think when you have a good defense such as the Chiefs have, and when you have a quarterback who is unbelievable, I just think that the Chiefs will finally get over that hump. They'll finally get that playoff victory against the Colts, and they will be hosting a championship game next week. And then when it comes to the Cowboys versus the Rams, I am going to pick the Rams in this matchup. When you have a talented quarterback such as Jared Goff and an excellent runner in Gurley, and their defense is just unbelievable, and especially when you have corners like Peters and Talib, who I miss very much being a Broncos fan. Being shut down corners, they can definitely help out in shutting down the receivers for the Cowboys. So I believe that the Rams will move on to the championship game. And then when it comes to the Chargers versus the Patriots, it's going to kind of kill me to say this, but I believe that the Patriots at home will get a win and move on. Sorry, Chargers fans and Rivers fans. I would much prefer to see Rivers get that victory, but I just think that when you have a quarterback such as Brady, I just think it's damn near impossible to beat him. So I believe that the New England Patriots will move on after this game. And then the final game of the divisional round has the Eagles and the Saints. I really, really believe that the Saints will move on and host the championship game. When you have an offense such as they do and a defense as they do as well, it is darn near impossible to beat, and especially in their home building. And as I previously mentioned, they have yet to lose a playoff game in that building. That can play a major factor. It'd be interesting to see if the Eagles could pull off an upset, but I just don't know if they have enough magic. And they already got blown out once by the Saints this year. So, I mean, I'm sure the Eagles are out for revenge, but when you're in another team's barn, it doesn't really play to your factor. So I believe that the Rams, Saints, Patriots, and Chiefs are all going to be victorious this weekend. Now, on a quick side note, excuse me, I believe I'll predict who I would like to win. I think it'd be more interesting and it would draw a lot more fans if you had two teams from the same division duking it out for the Super Bowl in both the AFC and the NFC. I would really be interested to see if Rivers could upset Brady and then head into Arrowhead to take on Mahomes. I think that'd be a very interesting championship game. And then on the NFC side, if you had the Eagles heading into Dallas for a championship game, that would be incredible. I think that would really, like I said, bring out a lot of fans, bring out the TV, the media, and all this other stuff. But that's what I would prefer. But as I already predicted who I think will win. So until next week, we'll see what happens, and hopefully I do better than 2-2.